So I'm back in my studio today to do a bit more work on this piece, and you can see since the last video that it has progressed a bit further. And I just want to explain a little bit about what this work is about. For the past few months I've been getting our house ready for sale and been going through all the process of selling the house, and now my husband and I are looking for a new place interstate, which has meant selling my studio as well, which is part of the house. And if you've been through moving, you'll know how traumatic it can be, and how much turmoil and just emotional energy goes into packing up and moving a house and just getting your head around that whole thing. And I really wanted to put all of that energy and that emotion into some artworks. I've got a lot of ideas buzzing through my mind, but this was the initial start, and this is why I started this painting, was just to begin to process some of the emotional turmoil and feelings that I was going through, and I really wanted to get it into some artworks. So this will be the first piece from that series or that theme, and I know that perhaps over the next 6 months or even longer, as we move and we relocate somewhere else and get set up, that there'll be more artworks come out of that whole idea of moving and changing places. And you can see at the stage that it's at now that you can see the turmoil that's in this painting, because there isn't any area that is restful. It's just full of marks and layers, and just me really putting my energy and what I've been feeling and trying to work my way through onto this piece of paper. I don't know whether this will stay as one full sheet or whether I might divide it up into smaller works. I'm not sure yet. I'm really just taking it one step at a time. I have no idea what it's going to look like when it's finished. I'm not preempting it. I'm just trying to enjoy the process of painting intuitively. I don't mean when I say intuitively that I'm doing it mindlessly, because that's not the case. Intuitively is more about switching off what you see and what you're trying to work out with your brain, and allow it more to come from the emotional part of you, from your heart, and perhaps the emotions that you can't express. And I love to work in abstract expressionism because I find it to be a language all of its own. It's a visual language, and in that language I can express things that perhaps I can't really put into words, or they just come out in a different way. So today I've just got some gesso here, as well as some impasto white, which is a bit thinner than the gesso, and I'm just going to use this baking paddle. It's like a spatula, which is quite flexible, just to begin to cover up some of these areas, and just see where it goes. It will be just one other layer. I don't worry too much about whether it's working or whether it's not working, because I know that eventually I can always work it out. I can always make it work. So I don't sort of stress about it. I just try to enjoy the process. So I've been looking at this painting a little bit and just sort of noticing areas that I like. And there's just some markings around this area here that I quite like, and perhaps that will be a focal point if I keep the painting as this one whole painting. There's also some parts down here that I partially covered up, not really meaning to, but I did. So I'd like to keep some of that. I want to take some of this yellow out because it's there's too much of it there, and I need to now create some restful areas, because it's like there's one big loud conversation going on here. It's like there's just a lot of noise through the whole painting, and I now have to begin to take some of that out and just see where it goes. Okay, so I'm just going to start with just getting some paint on this area here. So I'll put some thick layers on, and then I'll maybe just add some more washes, or just some thinner areas as well. I can't always remember the words that I'm going to say when I'm on the video. some really nice markings in through here too that I like. One of my art teachers many years ago, something she used to say to the class was, don't get precious about your artwork. And that's a really good thing to remember. We've always got to try to stay adventurous and try to stay brave in what we're doing in our art, and not be intimidated by it. You have to remember who's the boss. It's not the painting. This is one of my favourite brushes that I bought in France. It stands up to a lot of bashing. I'm a bit tough on my brushes. I'm just going to flick that because I don't want to obscure everything. I don't want to hide up everything I've put down, because I'll only have to go back in and put it back in. I'm just going to step out of the camera's eye for a moment so I can have a look at it from back here. Okay. There's still this area up on the top here that's bothering me. There's some really interesting small sections that I just want to try to capture and focus in on. Sometimes it can be hard to paint when there's a lot of things going on in our life, and it takes just that little bit more focus to do that, but then painting in this kind of style is very helpful for that. Okay. I just love these parts here that have been actually scraped into the wet paint. Okay. Just going to grab a little bit of raw sienna. Use a bit of this one. I want to neutralise that white a little bit. It's looking a little bit glary to me. Maybe I can use what's on my glove as well. Just going to pop my glasses on. I'm working here with my non-dominant hand. I'm actually left-handed, but I do paint with both hands. Paint and draw with both hands, which comes in handy. I want to get a little bit of this raw sienna mixed with the white because it's just not quite as harsh. Okay, so I'm just going to switch the video off while I have a bit of a look at this. Just have a little think for a bit. Okay, so I just had to go off camera a little bit and just have a look at the work. I could feel myself beginning to hesitate and beginning to get uncertain with the piece, and I just didn't want to just cover up everything, which is so easy to do where you just start throwing the paint on. That's the mindless thing I was talking about, which is different from just following your intuition. So I had to come in and add in some whites across here and take a little bit more out and up here so that I wasn't sort of leaning across in front of the camera. But there's some lines in the work that I really want to save, and I don't think I'm going to add any more white at this stage. I'm just really hesitant to cover up too much because I feel like the painting is trying to say something, and I've got to spend that little bit of time listening to it and not just wipe it all out. So there's some beautiful lines up through here that when I'm thinking about the idea of changing places and going across the country and the crisscrossing of lines and coming to certain points in our life and then moving on from that point. And I kind of want to capture that in these artworks as well. So there's just some lines going up through here that I just want to put in again. And I may paint them out again. Just some beautiful marks in here that it's quite difficult actually working this close to a painting. I'm used to working a lot further back, and I work between the two, so it's difficult to stay in front of the camera when I want to keep roaming around the studio. There are some beautiful marks in here that I covered up, and I won't be able to get them back. It was just the way the scraper dragged across the surface. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that today and come back to it perhaps over the weekend or next week and do a little bit more on it. Thanks for joining me. So I've come back in and done a little bit more on this piece off camera. I just felt like I needed to just have a look and see what marks I really wanted to keep, but I also wanted to bring some of the marks back in because this piece is about moving places. It's about changing from one state to another, buying a new house, all the turmoil of doing that. There's a lot of intersecting lines that run through the piece that I really wanted to keep in there and add back in, and I feel like the piece is getting really close to being finished, and I feel quite excited about it because I know there's still a little bit more to do, but I feel like it is saying what I wanted it to say. And I just will show you something with just with this mat board. If I divide the painting up into 4, there's actually some really interesting paintings within that painting. So you can just see that how it changes the tone of the painting, and then that can actually become a series. There's going to be more, I think, in this. I've got a lot more ideas flowing already, and so we'll just see where it goes. Thanks for viewing.